Да, и если нет вопросов, мы переходим к следующему нашему докладчику, не менее интересному. Это Крістіна Каларасану, Румыния, член правління ФПП, голова секції психоаналітичної психотерапії пар і сім'ї ФПП, співзасновник та секретар Румунської асоціації психоаналізу сім'ї та групових зв'язків, член наукової ради Міжнародної асоціації психоаналізу пар і сім'ї, працює та викладає в Бухаресті. Пленарна доповідь «Психоаналітична психотерапія пар і сім'ї перед обличчям змін та невизначеності». Приглашаю.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to follow Deidre's beautiful paper. So my paper it's called Couple and Family Psychoanalytic Psychotherapy, Facing Change and Uncertainty. It may easily seem that we've heard so many times the phrase, the world is changing, as it has become a cliche. Nevertheless, we could say that we have never deeply felt change until we have actually abruptly lived it. At this point, the main challenge for us is not to cope with the present by finding answers, but to facilitate the genuine possibility of raising questions. Change is not a straight line between 2 points. It is a complex process, reshaping and reframing today, different from yesterday, and uncertain regarding tomorrow. This paper will approach the idea of change and uncertainty as it is lived within our psychoanalytic psychotherapeutic work with families and couples. While reading this paper, I've received the sad news of the Argentinian psychoanalyst Janine Puget's death. Short time ago, during the 9th International IACFP Congress, she was talking in her unique way about uncertainty. I quote, "Perhaps we will be able to open windows or take into account those that already exist, to let in some new air in the same way we notice the influences of invisible molecules. Let's accept that the windows and walls have become old and have lost their protective function so desired in our life. Read the famous frame of Freud and followers, a frame that has to protect or create an illusory protection against an outside world that we'll be able to defeat. How much work it takes to metaphorize the outside world. Perhaps we can give back to the future its exciting quality as the engine of our lives, the one we so often want to incorporate into the present with predictions, that is to say, with an illusory advanced knowledge." I end quoting. Where can we start our search to begin to understand what uncertainty means? If we go to the dictionary, we'll find the following explanation: a situation in which something is not known, or something that is not known or certain, or the feeling of not being sure what will happen in the future. The most used expressions containing these words are condition of uncertainty, considerable uncertainty, degree of uncertainty. Our biggest challenge seems to be the capacity of knowing what still remains unknown. But is this our real challenge? Is this the task of us as couple and family psychoanalytic psychotherapists, to facilitate this process of making every day a photo, every day of the present a photo of the near future? This seems more coping with the anxiety than achieving a creative state of mind, as Mary Morgan beautifully calls it. Someone asked me if I knew the origins of the most famous magical word, abracadabra. It comes from the Arabic abracadabra, meaning I create as I speak. We can then believe that the future is also not known through the feeling of certainty, but created while we feel uncertain. I go back to Janine Puget and her way of regarding the past, present, and future. We could think that the past is definitively the origin and the reference of our entire feeling of security and the basis to all our strategies to face change. In one interview named Very Beautiful, Should We Start a Friendship with Conflicts? Janine Puget was asked if she thinks that the past is the origin of all difficulties we face in our present lives. She replied that for a long time, we thought that the meaning of the past is to explain the present, but the present also creates a past. This means that when we create something new, as we speak, it does not affect and has an effect only forward, but also backward. She continues on saying that our main challenge is to accept and live with the different, without looking for resemblance or complementarities. I quote, "Many times we try to diminish by saying that what is different is similar or complementary. This is when a person says, yes, I understand because it happens to me too. That's when the creative force of the link is interrupted because the same thing cannot happen to me. Something similar can happen to me. But it doesn't matter. Instead of listening to the other person, I listen to him in what is similar to me. Then everything that is different, foreign, disappears because I cover it with this. This has happened to me too. Or it sought me to complete my idea." Referring to psychoanalysis, she says, "Why is it so hard to listen to someone else? Theoretically, psychoanalysts know how to listen. My experience teaches me that they do not, that they listen to what is expected and what they imagine they'll be able to answer. But listening to something that does not coincide with what I thought costs a lot. If you observe people dialoguing, cold dialoguing, in general, they listen to themselves and add a little more, saying, it's like I told you, or it's like I knew. But genuinely listening to something that you didn't expect is unsettling, and nobody likes to be disturbed." I end the quoting. And certainly change and uncertainty are disturbing. When all this uncertainty started, we can imagine that the beginning is closely tightened with the pandemic situation. This has profoundly changed our daily lives. One effect I immediately experienced was that in just a few weeks, my agenda for one entire year was just vanished. Suddenly, there was an empty space, and I was seriously invited to think what will be happening not next year, but next week. Were the words written in my agenda giving me a sense of certainty? The sadness and anger of seeing them disappearing were the sign of uncertainty? While we may be tempted to think that we are confronted with uncertainty since the beginning of this year, we may be fully surprised about the words written by René Caes in 2012 in his book called Mal-être. Among the signs of mal-être, the feeling that the world is dangerous sets in insistently. The great fears are based on reality, as they were during the great invasions or epidemics, but they are different from the great millennialist fears based on the catastrophic imaginary of the end of the world and the utopian hope of its regeneration. All the great fears, those of today, are in a complementary series with variable gradients between these two poles. René Caes was talking about the rapidity, complexity, and amplitude of the change, the uncontrollable nature of those changes, over which we do not exercise any control or influence, which makes them unthinkable, meaningless, leading to persecution and feelings of impotence and defiance. He names the modern subject a man of disagreement, l'homme désaccordé. He continues on saying that one of the more important features of hypermodernity is the great concern, la grande inquiétude, which grips a part of humanity at the magnitude of the rapidity of the changes that have taken place. He reminds Bauman's metaphor of the liquid society and liquid times to describe a world where the links between humans cannot maintain their form when they are constrained by forces they are unable to resist. A world that is unstable in its rules, fragile in its ephemeral encounters, uncertain in its values, contributes to creating a feeling of insecurity within the links. He ends reminding that the deficit approach is one of the symptoms of the mal-être. If it makes us sensitive to what is deficient or disorganized, if it nourishes nostalgia for what we have lost, it does not solicit interest in what has not yet happened, the ability to think the new. We must therefore also be attentive to the emergence of new experiences, new proposals, and new values. While living the uncertainty, some very short clinical vignettes. I was discussing in one session with an 8-year-old boy and his mother about the feeling of being upset all the time. During the discussion, the boy said that he needs to write a very important letter. He goes to the little table, takes a white paper and a pencil, and starts writing very focused and serious. After, he wraps the papers and stands up saying, "The mailman is here, you have received a letter." I open the letter and I read loudly the phrase inside. "I don't know why I am upset all the time." I turn the paper, I take a pencil and I reply, "I think you feel like that because you are sad." He takes another paper and writes, "What is sadness?" I take the letter, I turn the paper the other way and I reply, "Sadness is when you have a question and you don't find the answer." He takes the letter, he reads it, and he says, "Oh, I understand now. Sadness is when you have a question and no history. All you have is just an accident." One family with 2 daughters, 7 and 2 years old, was telling me about the fact that they feel very tired. After all those months of being all the time together and doing all the things at the same time, working from home, school from home, playing home. The eldest girl was at the table making a drawing. The youngest was looking for a toy into the cabinet. "It is just too much," the father said. "We feel tired and we have no horizon to see what's still to come." "My drawing is done," said the eldest girl. "Please show it and tell us something about it," I said. Meanwhile, the youngest girl chose a shark from the many other toys and started playing with him. "It is a house and a flower and a purple cat and some clouds. What do you think?" asked the eldest girl, letting all of us to see the drawing. "It seems to me that something is missing," I said. "Yes, I think too," said the father. "The sun is missing." After a few moments of reflection, the girl added, "I know what you are thinking about. The people are missing. I wanted to draw people, but the problem is that they were all inside their houses. There is no one left outside." A couple shares with me during a session the fear that the wife could have breast cancer. They are investigating a breast node, and the doctor said that she needs a biopsy to see either the cells are malignant. The wife speaks as her husband remains silent. "I'm struggling with all this. I can't even focus on my job or take care of my daughter as I used to do. I think all the time only about this issue. How will my life be with cancer? What will become of our couple relationship during such a difficult time. I fear I will look into the mirror and I will not recognize myself. The next session, they come and I see them smiling. I imagine that the result of the investigation must have been negative. They sat down and the husband says, "You can't imagine what happened." I look at them, waiting to hear what this is all about. I was on the way to have a CT, and suddenly the nurse said, "Please sign this form about the fact that you are not pregnant." The wife said, I was surprised, and after a couple of seconds, I replied that I really don't know. And they took me to do an echo. And what to see? I'm pregnant. She continued, very touched. The husband added, "How about that? The last time we were talking about illness and fear of death. Today we are celebrating life." I was just on the point of saying goodbye to a 14-year-old girl and her mother. The session has finished in a very emotional climate, where the mother sat crying. I feel that I have finally begun to know my daughter, and I can let her be close to me. We have been apart all those years. We were together, but we have never met each other. As I was on the door of the room where I received the families, the two of them were near the exit, and suddenly the girl stopped and said, "Can I ask you something?" "Yes, tell me, please," I replied. "Can you remove your mask for 2 seconds so that I can see your face?" I did as she asked me, and she said, "Beautiful, thank you very much." I realized that they have come to me after the start of the pandemic, and I've never shown my whole face, only my eyes. And I replied, "Thank you for being so brave to show me that I have forgotten something very important." A couple talks in the first meeting about their relationship. The husband says, "It's like an old car. Once was strong and powerful, but today it needs a lot of repair. I still have hope for us." The wife replies, "I feel that it is beyond repair. We could just throw it to the trash. I don't see a future for us." After listening to both of them, I said, "It may seem broken. It may even seem already trash. But maybe it may be another situation. The car will not move, not because it is stuck, but because it has the handbrake on, to not go straight toward danger." Facing change and uncertainty. We could say that we all have lived and faced the same situation, but we could not be more wrong, as it was certainly very different. We could say that we all have felt the same feeling towards it, but it would not be true. During lockdown, my remote practice was temporarily reinstalled in one of the rooms of my apartment. I tried to arrange the best and appropriate setting, allowing me to do my work and to reestablish my setting under such unusual conditions. Both externally and internally, the world has undergone from one day to another a huge transformation. Even I kept my work agenda entirely, the days were not at all the same. Time passed very differently, and all of a sudden, I became aware about all the microscopic elements composing my daily rhythm. One of those elements was my computer, and particularly the screen. It has replaced the door I used to open to every one of my patients. Another element was the window and the small garden in front, leading all the way to the sky. The window was the only gate to the world. And last but not the least, the music. In particular, one song I was listening daily between my sessions. I don't really remember the way that song found me, but it had Turkish lyrics, and even though I did not understand the literal meaning, I had the feeling of something very familiar, describing what I was feeling and living. Going back to this song, when I decided to write this paper, I was very interested in the translation. And what I've discovered left me for a few moments without words. The song, called Turn Around, Look at the World, was a perfect translation of my feelings during lockdown. The lyrics were, if you are left alone, get up, look out of the window. Has the sun risen? Has it rained? Turn around, look at the world. If everyone is gone, call me, turn around, have a look. Have any of your friends left? Has your love withered? Turn around, look at the world. Lonely like the autumn, defenseless like the winter, or if you are the spring, if you are the beginning of the way, never give up, get up, look out of the window. Looking back, it seems that I have enacted in the countertransference something that was very present, but does not yet have words to be spoken. It could have been only more of a psychic environment than a concrete content. It needed a code and a carrier. The code was the strange language, impossible to understand and to literally translate, and the carrier was the music. As words are more of a sophisticated way to communicate, music is linked to an archaic rhythm, sounds, audiograms, being the first psychic representations of a human being. I will conclude this paper with Janine Puget's words about the way we can work in today's world. I quote, "We will not only have to help young patients to think about their conflicts, but my idea today is that conflicts must be made friends. Rather than telling them that we are going to solve them, as was said in Freud's time, today it will be to become friends with the conflicts. Of course, making friends takes time, but it is important to turn something heavy into something fun. If one offers a space to dialogue, to think together, young people will agree. If it is to tell them how to think, psychoanalysis dies. So we have to manage two types of interventions. One of them will be the traditional one, such as explanations, certain transference and counter-transference level reference, and the other will be interventions, a word we have created with Isidoro Berenstein. It would be that the analyst interferes, does not explain, but interferes with his thinking, his way of thinking life. He creates in the session a space to think. It is not always easy, because the patient does not want to know what you think, but rather that you take care of it. Thank you very much.
Огромное спасибо, Кристина. Такой потрясающий доклад, глубокий, полный. У нас есть время для того, чтобы мы могли обсудить это все, поделиться чувствами, впечатлениями, ощущениями своими, задать вопросы.
Ну, я, наверное, скажу вначале, потому что мне тоже очень приятно было это услышать, хотя я до этого уже не удержалась и прочитала доклад, когда Кристина прислала заготовку. Действительно потрясающе и, на мой взгляд, очень воодушевляюще, потому что мы во время перемен часто слышим о том, что из кризиса важно сделать возможности и так далее. Но как это сделать и как с этим быть, и тем более как это пережить, как это сделать в своей жизни, инструкций нет. Кристина тоже не дает инструкций. Но, тем не менее, в этой статье, в этом докладе есть возможность подумать о возможности. Это не тавтология, это рефлексивное мышление, когда мы можем думать о том, как мы думаем. И, ну, конечно, я очень благодарна за то, что этот разговор состоялся, и я уверена, что он будет иметь продолжение. Спасибо огромное.
Thank you very much for your words, Irina. What I found out in all these months of crisis and difficult time is there is no such things as instructions. We want them to be, but they don't exist. Yeah, we make always this reference to the past, to our normal life, to our normal setting, but the idea is that all we have it's the present, and that we at some point we start living with the present, and the present it is as it is. We will know what to do with the present when we accept that this is the present, this is the new life, this is the life. We are not just waiting to go back to the normal life or to the past. We are looking forward.
Меня очень впечатлила, Кристина, ваша трактовка грусти. Я подумала, как много на самом деле в этом всего есть.
It was a very lively and spontaneous explanation. It was not that I had in mind to say that. It was just something I got at the moment in my head, and I chose to reply like that. So it was more of a creation than something that I already had in mind. I believe in a next session or to a question like that in the future, I will reply differently.
Да, я так и подумала, но при этом возникло такое ощущение, что как раз именно этого этот мальчик ждал. Вы дали ответ на его вопрос.
It's true. It was revealing. It was revealing for the boy. Yeah. It was not an instruction. It was not an answer. It was just an opening to say, yeah, to keep looking.
Более того, это философский подход и для взрослых людей. И это возможность подумать о том, как, казалось бы, маленькие заставляют как-то иначе видеть мир больших, своим новым видением, а не только в одном направлении движения.
И я хочу тоже сказать спасибо большое, Кристина, особенно за то, что вы поделились своими ощущениями, переживаниями во время изоляции. Мне очень отозвалась и очень поддерживаю.
Thank you to have offered me such an opportunity to share my own experience.
Мені відгукнулася дуже теза про те, що часто ми в людей готові слухати те, що ми очікуємо чи чекаємо чути. І нам важко стикатися і чути те, чого ми не очікуємо. І я подумала про те, що такі моменти були, коли в мене була моя особиста терапія, коли я виносила якісь речі, і коли я бачила, що мій терапевт десь, можливо, з чимось не справлявся, як мені здавалося, і потім це було те, наскільки я далі готова була про це говорити. І тут я під час вашої доповіді подумала про те, що чи, можливо, я як терапевт можу попадати в теж такі ситуації, і не хотіти чути те, що, можливо, мій клієнт мені хоче сказати, а я не готова це чути. І, можливо, потрібно бути більш, можливо, толерантнішою, терпеливішою, дати можливість клієнту розкритися в цьому і прийняти, контейнувати. Це важливо, тому що це той момент, коли людина закривається і ми можемо щось втратити в терапії. Дякую вам за оцю актуалізацію, це мені було важливо.
Можно еще сказать пару слов? Еще есть время?
Да,
Я хочу поделиться своими, ну, я бы сказала, такими теоретическими, может быть, резонансами. Я подумала о том, что речь шла о важности связей, которые... Хотела поделиться мыслями о том, что звучали идеи важности связей, которые есть не только с прошлым, но которые есть в настоящем. И это у меня ассоциировалось с тем, что в это задействована и теория привязанности, и то, что Бион, вот это, что Ирина вспомнила его про мышление, thinking about thinking, связь между мыслями, связь между людьми, потом нападение на связь, которая возникает при повышенных уровнях агрессии. И мне кажется, что идеи развития таких живых связей или приносящих жизнь связей необычайно важны. И мне показалось, что вот эта вот вся идея связана с тем, как находить связи, как находить направление этих связей в поле между нами, в поле с клиентами и в поле с внешним миром. Как бы такой положительной связи, как есть такое, ну, скажем, может быть, отрицательное мнение про проективную идентификацию в смысле символического равенства. В данном случае вот это ощущение связи с природой, ощущение связи с окружающим миром, как с живым, это такая положительное символическое равенство, еще одна связь. Так что я еще раз очень благодарю Кристину за ту высокую проницательность и очень большую откровенность. Спасибо большое.
Ну, если есть еще минут, я тоже скажу по поводу будущего, да, то есть был вопрос в том, что неопределенность будущего вызывает эту тревогу, но в психоанализе мы зачастую работаем с прошлым, да, с его изменением. И тем не менее, вот эта картина будущего, наша фантазия о том, как это могло бы быть, она тоже не менее нуждается в коррекции. Она не менее нуждается в том, чтобы этот мир представить как-то иначе себе. И это тоже то, что происходит в терапии. Это, ну, вот в этом примере с мальчиком, который сказал, я не знаю, как это может быть. И вот эта отправная точка настоящего незнания, которая влияет на будущее. И тогда, ну, почему так страшно? Потому что страх заставляет думать о смерти, да, о негативных каких-то результатах. И корректируя это самое будущее, не превращая его в иллюзию, но получая какое-то понимание и открытость, есть возможность его изменить. Так что открытость, да, это один из инструментов, но довольно тяжелый и острый. И еще я хотела сказать о том, что психоаналитик закрыт для своего клиента. И вот эта открытость, возможность открыться, поделиться своими переживаниями, это тоже очень большая смелость на самом деле. Потому что когда мы работаем с клиентом, делясь своими переживаниями, мы не всегда точно уверены, какой отклик мы получим, как изложенная нами информация будет достигнута. Вот это то, о чем Татьяна говорила несколько минут назад, и о чем очень красиво, даже вот не побоюсь этого слова, сказала Крістіна. Ну, спасибо большое, спасибо за такую открытость. Да.
Thank you very much, Irina, for your words. It's true that during such a difficult time, the patient started, for example, asking more about me. How are you? How are you doing? How is it for you? Yeah, maybe questions that we didn't have it before, because before we didn't discuss about me and about the way I am, but this has become important for them to discuss it and to have the opportunity of knowing that I'm okay, that I can share with them that. And regarding what you've said, the problem with the future and what, in my opinion, gives us a lot of anxiety is that we expect the future to be certain, but for sure the future is always uncertain. Of course, uncertainty could mean something creative, something beautiful, or it could mean a catastrophe. But we cannot be never sure or certain about the future. We only can be open to see what it will bring up. Thank you very much.
Ще хотіла сказати, що доповідь Крістіни мені ще перегукнулась дуже сильно з тим, що ми чули на круглому столі про цю ситуацію, психоаналіз і КПТ, і от якось про неопределенність і тривогу. Якось дуже відгукнулось, тут багато є фантазій, але якби якось це було якось як на паралелях прозвучало.
Ну и доклад не звучит как просто такая приободряющая рапсодия, да? Он скорее ставит на ноги. То есть это не, ну, как сейчас модно говорить, позитивчик, а как раз возможность опереться на какие-то свои на свои внутренние силы. И тем не менее оставляет ощущение открытого окна и возможности выйти на свежий воздух.
Beautiful image. As I see many windows before me.
Да.
Я еще думаю о той идее спонтанности. Как важно соблюдать вот эту вот, найти вот этот баланс, вот эту грань между тем, чтобы не занимать очень много места в пространстве клиента, и при этом, чтобы быть достаточно живой и спонтанной.
Being creative, not intrusive.
Інна, чи може бути так, відгукуючись на ваші слова, іноді якомусь клієнту потрібно, щоб хтось зараз заповнив більше місця навколо нього, а якийсь клієнт навпаки хоче отримати простір, більше простору для себе, наприклад, в терапії. Тобто, можливо, задача в тому, щоб з кожним клієнтом знаходити цей баланс відповідно до його потреб.
У мене є питання. Наскільки я зрозуміла, ви працюєте в аналітичному ключі. Мені показалося, що воно якось так трохи ближче там, до психодрами, ніж до психоаналізу. Чи то мені дике показалося?
Maybe it's a very authentic impression, because sometimes it feels like psychodrama with the families in particular. Playing, having in the same time children drawing or singing, or I don't know, playing a game together. Yeah, it could be more of a psychodrama, but my thinking is always psychoanalytic, directed, sometimes I see it as something that helps a lot. For example, with the boy was a bit stuck in his difficulty of understanding what's going on, and the letter scene has helped him a lot. I don't believe that only by talking or trying to free associating it could have been the same. He really needed, yeah, to put it in something, yeah. So yeah, often with families it sounds like psychodrama, but if I think on my frame and on my approach, it's psychoanalytic, it's not psychodrama.
Спасибо.
Это похоже на то, как мы в терапии ищем язык, на котором можно говорить с тем или иным клиентом. Да, для меня это тоже очень аналитично.
Я думаю еще также о том, что психоанализ уже является какой-то частью культуры нашей внутренней также. И в этом контексте, то есть много было разговоров о том, что европейская культура уже несет вот эту аналитическую составляющую, а в Украине еще этого нет. Я не могу с этим согласиться. Я уже вижу, как вот аналитическая мысль, она является частью того, как мы рассуждаем, думаем, живем и как мы встраиваем это в свою жизнь. И мне это интересно.
Вір, ми сьогодні слухали лекції про сучасний аналіз, да, і там дуже багато соціального. Я би не сказала, що, наскільки я розумію психоаналіз, це таки, все ж таки більше на індивідуальність, да, тобто акцент робиться на зняття симптомів. від симптому до здоров'я, так ми говоримо. А психоаналіз сам по собі, я зрозуміла, що він ближче вже стає більш соціальний, він ближче до соціуму. Да? Тобто цей, я хотіла там задати питання, не було часу, але зараз теж якось в кінці, таке в мене народилось питання, про цей тваринний інстинкт, і говорив сам Фрейд. Я не думаю, що в Україні буде мислення як культура аналітична. Мені кажеться, ми трошки інша нація. В нас дія, да? Тобто, ну, я зараз починаю ходити, навірно, в конференцію, доказати, що психодрама важніша. Це я так собі рефлексую. Але якраз в роботі з парами, з сім'єю, да, де там діти бігали, малювали, там було багато дії. Ну, там можна дати інтерпретацію, що це там аналітична, а можна просто акцент зробити на спонтанність, на дії і на творчості. І це також буде нести психотерапевтичний ефект.
Ну, конечно, это процесс, конечно, это не происходит мгновенно, и это уже занимает долгие годы. В Европе это занимало около столетия, у нас с конца 90-х годов. Вот. Тем не менее, наверное, да, и отношение друг к другу, и то, как мы обращаемся друг с другом, это тоже часть нашей культуры. И возможность взаимодействия, коммуникации – это часть социальная и часть индивидуальная. Да, безусловно. Спасибо большое, Инна.
Кристина, огромное спасибо. Вы дали возможность не только послушать прекрасный доклад, но и дали нам пространство для того, чтобы мы могли поделиться своими ощущениями, фантазировать. Огромное спасибо.
Thank you, спасибо.
Мы переходим к следующему этапу. До свидания.
Колеги-учасники, я вас дуже прошу